Here's the earth round. Okay, here's the earth round. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Keith, your man of letters, knowledge, information, entertainment. You know the spiel. Check it out. We got three. We got not necessarily even my top three, but just three bangers, right? Three things that we got to wipe out of the vocab if you want to raise our vibration. If we want to raise our, not even our vibration, you'll see that this whole goddamn speech is about dropping ideology, particularly spiritual ideologies. Now, an ideology is another word, fancier, less abrasive word than dogma. Right? We all got our dogmas, we all got our spiritual ideologies, right? They are not useful. Culture is not your friend, by our boy Terence McKenna. What did he mean by that? Now I'm going to dismantle these three so that you can see why Terence McKenna said all those years ago that culture is not your friend. In other words, the spiritual culture that you exist in is your spiritual ideology. And the phrases that we use practically daily are holding us back. They're holding us back. So, number one, law of attraction. So let's see what law of attraction is, right? It's the sort of like attracts like. Did I write that down? I wrote that one down too. That's how much that one grinds my gears. But first of all, if I can think of one example that refutes an ideology, then we must reconsider our entire stance on said ideology. So, law of attraction. Like attracts like. We'll bunch those up into two to save us some time. I ain't trying to be here all day. Can I imagine one scenario where two things that are like in character attract each other? Or can I think of an example where they negate? Well, if you put two positive ends to a magnet, they will repel each other. But opposites, put a positive and an opposite together, and they will stick. That's how magnets work. My point, right? Why is this important? It's important because when we repeat something over and over again, it gets pushed into the subconscious mind, and when it gets pushed into the subconscious mind, it becomes sort of imprinted on our everyday manifestations. In other words, we put a substantial part of our manifestation on a passive mechanism. And the passive mechanisms, like the subconscious mind, are 1,000 times stronger than the active mechanisms. And the reason why is because the passive mechanisms are running 24/7, while the active mechanisms are controlled by our thought, our conscious mind, which bounces around all the time. You're thinking about this, and then you're thinking about that, etc., etc. So to say like attracts like, or to say that you physically pull something towards you just because you think it or just because you act it, is not the whole truth. And to believe it's the whole truth means that when you don't see it happen in the world, because it happens all the goddamn time, when we don't see that happening in the world, we doubt ourselves, we become insecure in our teachings, we become insecure in our habits and our thought patterns, we become insecure in how we lead our life. Because I believe my whole life that like attracts like. I believed, or for the past 5-10 years, that the law of attraction, I just think something and it becomes pulled towards me. Now let's do number one, law of attraction specifically. We do not necessarily pull things towards us when we broadcast a certain frequency. Instead, we evoke what is already there. But everything sort of exists as it is, independent of us. Right? Believe it or not, we are not always the center of the universe. We are and we are not, which is sort of my point. When we tune into a frequency, no, I take that back. When we become a frequency, we emanate that frequency. And just like the electromagnetic field that you see in all the pictures, that information gets carried into that EM field, and it extends past our body. Some might even say to infinity. Well, when we come into the field of another object and we match that field, both fields resonate off of each other. Don't quote me, but the definition of resonance is the synchronous. Resonance is the synchronous vibration, synchronized vibration and amplification of two matching frequencies. And the perfect example are two violins. If they're both tuned to E, you strum one E string, and when that E string vibrates, it vibrates the neighboring E string because they are matching frequencies. So if I was holding a violin in my hands right now, I would play the E string, and the violin that's behind the camera would also start to vibrate. The E string, right? The matching string would start to vibrate. That's because it has been evoked by its frequential counterpart. And that's what we're doing. We're not attracting things in our lives. Why is that? We're not attracting. We're not attracting. Don't think of it in terms of attracting. It's boring. It takes a long time. Yeah, sometimes we can pull things to ourselves because anything's possible. But for the most part, the power, the gusto behind it is not pulling things toward us. It's evoking the world. It's stimulating the world. You bring the world to life because not only are you matching frequency, evoking a frequency, but you're waking the other one from the dead. The other violin could be at a dead standstill, not vibrating at all, and would be brought to life. So when you hear of people, you hear about being around them, and you feel so alive, you feel so inspired, you feel so uplifted. You have been evoked by that neighboring electromagnetic field, by that neighboring frequency, by that neighboring person. That's what's happening. That's how people should see the law of attraction, is more of vibration, because everything moves, period. Nothing is at a dead standstill. This desk under a microscope, the electrons are firing on all cylinders, round and around and around. It's just the way the cookie crumbles. You know, people always say, oh, the solar system, the planets move in a circle around the sun. Like, the planets don't move in a circle around the sun. You guys realize that, right? The planets move in a spiral. It goes, because the sun's moving. The sun's not just sitting still. No, the sun's blasting through space, and the earth is trying to catch up with it, blasting through space while spinning around it. So it's just this crazy ass spiral into forever. You know what I mean? Nothing is at rest. Everything is moving, and everything that moves as a result of movement vibrates. And everything that vibrates, because it's vibrating, releases a frequency. Therefore, everything can be measured in frequency, right? And we stimulate other frequencies by just being our own frequency. It doesn't matter if you're negative or positive. You're going to be vibing with the homies. Even if the homies are negative, we still love the homies, right? Because they match us. Doesn't matter who. If they match us, it feels good. You know what I mean? Sad songs are hella depressing. But if you're sad and you listen to those sad songs, you get a sort of sick, twisted feel-goodness out of the sadness. Maybe it's not even twisted. Maybe, again, you just want to vibe with the homies. And that's what it's all about. It's all about vibration. It's all about vibration, baby. It's not about law of attraction. Drop that shit. I want to write it again on the board just so that I can erase it again on the board. That's how bitter I am with that phrase. Like, get that shit out of your heads. Like attracts like. We'll get that shit out. We'll get that out of here too. What the hell? All right, now number 3, I say all the time. I probably will say after this video, but I figured, hey, if I'm going to be making a video where I'm challenging people's thoughts, I'm going to challenge my own. All is mind I use a lot because we all come from mind, therefore you can say all is mind. But the origin is mind. infinite, intelligent, incomprehensible mind, but even to call it mind is to fall short on what it actually is, which is the unnameable. Calling it the unnameable is... I'm playing the devil's advocate to all you hermeticists and alchemists out there. I'm playing the devil's advocate, but I'm using our own definition via the philosophy. All is not mind, because to say all is means all equals mind. All is everything. All is the container for mind. All is the thought of mind. All is the past of mind, the future of mind, the present of mind. It is the other minds that can contemplate the mind, and it is the thing that's watching the other minds comprehend the ultimate mind, failing to realize that even that ultimate mind isn't what they're referring to, and it's looking down on that, going, "Ha, foolish humans." You know, am I making sense? This is a paradox. The all is mind is a paradox. The all is not. The all is. That's the all. That's the all. So, did we cover everything? Polarity, we didn't really talk about polarity in correspondence too much. I mean, I did, if you guys are paying attention. Ideologies, you know what I mean? It's tough. Because the woke world wants to point at all the other worlds, going, look how woke we is, look how woke you ain't. And then we get sucker punched into our own ideologies. We reprimand the rest of society for their silly notions of the world, how they see the world, their paradigms, their conclusions, what they believe to be true and false about the world. With the woke folk love to criticize. They're probably the number one criticizers, period. Now that I think about it. Let's just be real. We're always fucking judging things. It's what one does on the pedestal, because we must, we have to reinforce our beliefs, and human tends to do that by negating others. Because if we allow another belief to exist outside of our own that contradicts our own, and we accept it, what does that say about our belief to begin with? You know what I mean? So it's a catch-22. We have to have some sort of basis in reality to go forward. I get that. You can't get rid of that, and you shouldn't get rid of that. Otherwise, you'd be flip-flopping all the time, and you'd be overly passive, is what I'm getting at. Anywho. That's why I added that third one, because the Hermetic folk, you guys know who you are, love to throw shit in people's faces. We love to throw shit in people's faces, phrases in people's faces, books in people. You know what I mean? This whole video is throwing something in people's faces, but what I mean for it to do is be a criticism on my own beliefs, our own beliefs. You know what I mean? Because to a degree, law of attraction is true. To a degree, like attracts like is true. But there's just far too many circumstances where you can negate those things to be saying phrases like that over and over again, and not expect, some sort of cognitive dissonance when that paradigm meets reality. There's gonna be some dissonance, not resonance, but some dissonance when those two meet, when you get out into the real world, because despite, again, what we are taught to believe in the spiritual community, there are objective realities outside of ourselves. You know what I mean? The existence is not completely subjective, because if it was always subjective, then we would defy, right? We would defy the nature of the all, which is change is the only constant. There's no such thing as stagnancy, as one thing existing forever, other than the unnameable. So again, one must approach, one must study, learn as much about their craft and themselves, and how the craft and the self overlaps, right? The thing that you love to do and the relationship between those two things, and you take everything that you've learned, all your favorite books, all your favorite things, you go as close to source as you can, right? Get rid of culture, the spiritual culture. Get rid of the spiritual ideologies. Get rid of what your favorite YouTubers say, including myself, and really try to dissect. It doesn't have to be every situation. That would get kind of ridiculous, but dissect. Once a week you come across something where you're like, oh, yeah, you hear a catchphrase or you see a video or something happens where it reinforces a belief that you have and you don't even necessarily know why you have it, or you haven't looked into it for a while, and go, is that true? I'll use the example in this video just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. You come across someone says like attracts like, and you go, yeah, is that true? In every case, does like attract like? Or do opposites attract, which we see almost equally as many times. Okay, so if it happens so much to where we create a phrase, opposites attract, and it happens often enough to where we can create the other phrase, that like attracts like, then that means they're both happening a fuck ton of times in the real world. Therefore, every situation that I find myself in, worth contemplating about, worth deeply contemplating, should be met not through culture's eyes, not through my spiritual ideology's eyes, but mine. All the things I've learned, including my past experiences, who I am, who I've become, who I want to be, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what I actually believe to be true because I feel it. I feel it in my fucking bones, and what I believe to be true simply because I've heard it 1,000 times. Right? Like what was on the board. Do I believe it just because I've heard it 1,000 times? I'm not saying you'll reach enlightenment through that. All I'm saying is that it's a realer way to see the world. Not even that. Even that sounds too fucking fake. It's when you look at situations in the world the way I'm trying to describe, you see a reflection of yourself on the world. People will say, well, your external world reflects your internal. That's true. But to be able to see that as a painting, to see your external world as a painting, you know what I mean? It could be a terrible painting, but you'll still think, not terrible. It can be a beautiful picture of a terrible scene. But if the craftsmanship on the picture is flawless, we're going to acknowledge that. This artist is fucking brilliant. Even though it's a picture of the Holocaust. You know what I mean? And that's what will happen when we sort of drop culture and drop ideologies and drop our dogmas, is we'll see the world painted as our core. Like, oh, fuck, that's me. And we're running out of time for this video, so we'll end it at that. Thank you guys for being here. My name is Keith, Man of Letters. Like and subscribe. Take it easy, guys. Thanks for being here.